Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, not in that order. Welcome back. We are going to be reading, this is video 3, reading chapter 1 in Saint Germain, Mystery of the Violet Flame, written by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. In chapter 1, we are just continuing to learn and read about some lives that Saint Germain lived while he was here on earth prior to ascending to, or for the final time as an ascended master. I think this is really all that there is to chapter 1, is learning a little bit about who Saint Germain was and is. And then we will go more into, obviously, the violet flame. So let's just go ahead and keep moving. I do think we might almost be done with chapter 1 if I looked at it correctly. So we'll just keep moving and see if we can at least finish this chapter, okay? So we can get closer to, not that this stuff is not important. I do think it is important to understand the violet flame, where it came from, the history behind it, along with, of course, the obvious reasons of how to use it, why to use it, how it can help you, that sort of thing. All right, so let's go ahead and just keep moving. From adept to ascended master. By the time of his death in 1626, persecuted and unrecognized for his manifold talents, Francis Bacon had triumphed over circumstances that would have destroyed lesser men, but which for him proved the true making of an ascended master. Enter Saint Germain, May 1st, 1684, God of freedom to the earth, draped with a cloak of stars. He stands with his twin flame, the goddess of justice, against the backdrop of cosmos. He has come to ignite the fires of world transmutation in hearts attuned to the cosmic ciphers and to avert personal and planetary cataclysm. He pleads the cause of God freedom before the councils of men and presents his case before the world body of light bearers. He offers a ransom for the oppressed, gift of his heart and of his mind, rarest jewel of all our earthly souvenirs, and of his causal body, sphere upon sphere of the richness of himself, harvested from the divine and the human experience. All this he offers. Like a beggar with his bowl piled high, he plies the streets of the world, eyeing passerby, hopeful that even one in every million might take the pro-offered gift and hold it to his heart in recognition of the source of the sun and of the alchemy of the age so close, yes, as close as free will and the divine spark is our extrication from the dilemma of doubt and deleterious concepts and death. And as far as the toiler's envy of our love tryst is from grace, so without him is the morning of our deliverance from tangled entanglements of karmic crisscrosses of our doodling and dabbling for centuries boredom, with personalities far less, oh yes, than his. Enter Saint Germain into our hearts forever, if we will only let him. The Wonder Man of Europe. May 1st, 1684, was Saint Germain's Ascension Day. From heights of power well earned and beyond this world's, he still stands to turn back all attempts to thwart his great instauration here below. Desiring above all else is to liberate God's people, whether they would be liberated or not. Saint Germain sought and was granted a dispensation from the lords of karma to return to earth in a physical body. He appears as Le Comte de Saint Germain, a miraculous gentleman who dazzled the courts of 18th and 19th century Europe, where they called him the Wonder Man, and with good reason. Never had anyone so captured the attention of an entire continent quite like this Monsieur. I think there's a fancier way to say that. He was, as Voltaire described him, the man who never dies and who knows everything. But that was incomplete. He was also the man who could play the violin like an orchestra, the man who spoke flawless French, English, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese, who was an expert in Latin, Greek, Chinese, Sanskrit, and Arabic, the man who was a poet, painter, and artisan, scholar, statesman, and raconteur. He was no mythical figure spun out of salon gossip. Frederick the Great, Voltaire, Horace Walpole, and Casanova mentioned him in their letters. Newspapers of the day, the London Chronicle of June 1760, Le Notizie del Mondo, a Florentine newspaper in July of 1770, and the Gazette of the Netherlands took note of him. Madame de Houssat, femme de chambre, I don't know if I'm saying any of that correctly, to Madame de Pompadour, wrote of him at some length in her memoirs. She tells how in 1757 he undertook to remove a flaw from a medium-sized diamond for King Louis. After weighing the diamond, she wrote, "His Majesty said to the Comte, 'The value of this diamond as it is, and with the flaw in it, is 6,000 livres. Without the flaw, it would be worth at least 10,000. Will you undertake to make me a gainer of 4,000 livres?'" Saint Germain examined it very attentively and said, "It is possible. It may be done. I will bring it to you again in a month." So basically, I think he's saying, is it possible to make this larger or clearer, this diamond? And Saint Germain is saying, give me time and I will. So that's the alchemy. So they refer to Saint Germain as also an alchemist. So, all right. So at the time appointed, the Comte de Saint Germain brought back the diamond without a spot and gave it to the king. It was wrapped in a cloth of amianthos, which he took off. The king had it weighed immediately and found it very little diminished. His Majesty then sent it to his jeweler, without telling him of anything that had passed. The jeweler gave him 9,600 livres for it. The king, however, sent for the diamond back again and said he would keep it as a curiosity. The king, of course, was astonished. He made the remark that Saint Germain must be worth millions, especially if he possessed the secret of making large diamonds out of small ones. Sorry, there was an app. The sources of the Wonder Man's income and his net worth were never discovered. Clearly, he was a man of extraordinary means. One countess wrote that even though he dressed plainly, he wore an abundance of diamonds on every finger, on his watch, on his shoe buckles. The finest diamonds even adorned his snuff box. But as for making diamonds grow, Madame de Houssat tells us that the Comte never said that he could or could not, but positively asserted that he knew how to make pearls grow and give them the finest water. There seemed, in fact, no end to the things he could do. The Marquis de Valbel reported seeing him change a silver 6-franc piece into gold. In a letter dated 1763, Count Karl Cobenzl asserted that the Count Saint Germain had performed, under my own eyes, the transmutation of iron into a metal as beautiful as gold. How did he do it? Many would have liked to have known the Count's secrets: kings, ministers, diplomats, mystics, and savants. Some, no doubt, desired to enrich themselves. Others sought his ruin, for the Wonderman had his enemies. But whatever their purpose, no one ever discovered anything about him he did not wish them to know. The Count was a man of mystery. No one knew quite where he came from, nor how old he was, although there was a great deal of speculation about the matter. For the 112 years beginning in 1710, that European society reported seeing him. The Wonderman appeared to be about 45 years of age, but when asked, he would graciously decline to reveal his date of birth. To one countess, he would admit only that he was very old. Sometimes he appeared to be jesting, or was he reading from Akasha? Madame de Pompadour wrote that he would describe scenes from the court of Valois, 14th to 16th century, in such precise and minute detail as to give the unmistakable impression that he had been there. The Wonderman was reputed to have concocted medicines which prolonged his life, and to know the secret of the elixir of life. One memoir writer said that he gave such an elixir to Madame Georgie, which for fully a quarter of a century preserved unaltered the youthful charms she possessed at 25. Nor were these the end of the Count's wonders. His manners were exquisite, and he was a brilliant, although sometimes enigmatic, conversationalist. I'm going to butcher these names, but Madame de Adamir confidant of Marie Antoinette, reported seeing him vanish outside the royal quarters at Versailles. Cornelius van Cypestein wrote that he could tame bees and make snakes listen to music. Such feats, known to Indian yogis alike, nevertheless did not detract from his remarkableness. But to what end were the Count's labors? A man with infinite wealth and eternal life has no need to impress. The truth of the matter is, he had a number of goals, including dispersing the gathering storm that eventually burst forth on Europe as the French Revolution. The Count had the ability to describe the future with the same precision with which he recalled the past. He saw the French Revolution coming long before the Reign of Terror and the guillotine, when blood flowed in the streets of Paris. But he certainly did not think it was an unalterable event. No, indeed, a gigantic conspiracy is being formed, which as yet has no visible chief, but he will appear before long, he told Madame d'Adamar, some years before the Revolution, when the French throne was the most splendid institution in Europe. She recorded his prophecy in her diary. The aim is nothing less than the overthrow of what exists, to reconstruct it on a new plan. There is ill will towards the royal family, the clergy, the nobility, the magistracy. There is still time, however, to baffle the plot. Later, this would be impossible. Apparently, the Wonderman had it in mind to help effect a smooth transition from monarchical to republican forms of government. He knew the old order was passing and labored to establish a United States of Europe before the French Revolution would ultimately leave nothing good nor bad for her royal houses. Let's see. I'm just checking to see how far we are. Okay. A little bit more about his life as Count Saint-Germain, which I actually find the most interesting. The Count Saint-Germain tried to warn one of the King Louis of the webs of intrigue being woven around the monarchy. Madame d'Adamar reported. First, he explained to Marie Antoinette what would take place. He then begged her to tell the king and arrange a meeting between the two of them without the presence of the king's chief advisor, Monsieur de Maurepas. Madame d'Adamar, I'm going to say it different every time, present at the meeting between the Wonderman and Marie Antoinette, recorded his words. Some years yet will pass by in a deceitful calm, but then from all parts of the kingdom will spring up men greedy for vengeance, for power, and for money. They will overthrow all in their way. Civil war will burst out with all its horrors. It will bring in its train murder, pillage, exile. Then it will be regretted that I was not listened to. Alas, it is not only in his own country that a prophet may be without honor. Maurepas, a bitter enemy of the Count Saint-Germain, intervened. King and Count never met. The rest is history. There is much more to tell, of course, but many of the things that could be said are already included in the opening section of Saint-Germain on Alchemy, entitled The Wonderman of Europe. They also appear in the Comte de Saint-Germain by Isabel Cooper Oakley, so another book about him. The latter, for the most part, is a collection of eyewitness accounts of the Count Saint-Germain's amazing works, drawn from letters and diaries, family archives, and state papers, including the secret diplomatic correspondence files of the British National Record Office. Thus clearly stands out the character of one by some is called a messenger, from that spiritual hierarchy by whom the world's evolution is guided, Cooper Oakley concluded. Such is the moral worth of the man whom the shallow critics of the earth called adventurer. The charge of charlatanry, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that word, was no doubt born as often of jealousy of his powers as disbelief in his miracles. The Count Saint-Germain was accused in his own time, without foundation, by an unnamed group of Jesuits, of immortality, infidelity, anarchy, and because of his work with alchemists and the Masons by Abbe Barul and later Nesta Webster, of being a magician in league with various nefarious secret societies seeking the overthrow of France, including the Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. Since 1786, when the Illuminati were exposed and suppressed by the Bavarian government, it has been well known that it was a submersive organization which was deceptively grafted onto the body of Masonry by Weishaupt and Baron von Neig, that it was anti-religious and anti-monarchical in outlook, that it desperately opposed the goals and philosophy of Masonry. Furthermore, it was thought by some to have played a crucial role in fomenting the French Revolution. Barrel's and Webster's accusations apparently rise from their general misunderstanding of the history of secret societies and the Count Saint-Germain's mystical powers. Some criticism of the Count was spawned from nothing more than seeds of superstition born of fear. Case in point, Saint-Germain has told us of how he walked through the streets of Paris healing children from a disease similar to poliomyelitis. Poliomyelitis. At his touch, they would recover almost instantly, and yet their mothers would jerk them from his grasp and call him diable, devil. But as we have seen, the most painful denouement for the Wonderman was that he could not secure the necessary response from those who could have turned the tide in the affairs of men and nations. The royalty were willing to be entertained by the adept, but not to relinquish their power and move with the winds of democratic change. They and their jealous ministers ignored his counsel and opened the door to war and bloodshed that has resounded through the centuries since. In a final attempt to unite Europe, Saint-Germain backed Napoleon, who misused the master's power to his own demise. The opportunity to set aside the retribution due to an age thus past, Saint-Germain was once again forced to withdraw from a karmic situation. In this episode, though clearly visible as the mediator, Saint-Germain, with his miracles in hand and his prophecies fulfilled, could still be ignored. Well, as suddenly as the Count Saint-Germain burst onto the stage of Europe, he disappeared. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say that after 1822, the date of his last recorded appearance, he simply stopped appearing. In the latter 18th century, he told Franz Graffer and Baron Linden he would go to rest in the Himalayas. In 1875, Saint-Germain helped the masters M. or El Morya, K.H. Kuthumi, or Kuthumi is, I think, another way to say it, and Serapis Bey found the Theosophical Society. But that was not all. The founding of America. So Saint-Germain has very close ties to and he works very closely with the United States of America. He stands for freedom. He's actually has to do with the Statue of Liberty. So it's quite interesting how deep his mission goes. And, you know, even in his previous lives, he had no idea that he would be who he was. I would think, no idea what all of these lives put together would mean for himself and for humanity, as he lived these lives, and, you know, and the lives before that he didn't recall. So I just find this so fascinating. The founding of America. So that's the next section here. Throughout the period of his labors as the Comte, Saint-Germain had been constantly in service in various far-off lands, including one that became a hotbed of revolution, a rustic land that would eventually be called the United States of America. He has told us, having failed in securing the attention of the court of France and others of the crowned heads of Europe, I turned myself to the perfectionment of mankind at large. And I recognized that there were many who, hungering and thirsting after righteousness, would indeed be filled with the concept of a perfect union, which would inspire them to take dominion over the new world and create a union among the sovereign states. Thus, the United States was born as a child of my heart, and the American Revolution was the means of bringing freedom in all of its glory into manifestation from the East unto the West. Even as Francis Bacon, he had seen America as his last hope. He wrote in cipher, "I trusteth all to the future and a land that is very far towards the sunset gate. I keep the future ever in my plan, looking for my reward, not to my times or countrymen, but to a people very far off, and an age not like our own, but a second golden age of learning. In the mystical origins of the United States of America, an article that appears in Saint Germain on Alchemy, the role Saint Germain played behind the scenes in founding the United States of America is described in detail. He inspired the Masons with the vision of a union of sovereign states in a new order of the ages. He stood by George Washington throughout the Revolution and during the long winter at Valley Forge. He inspired and directed the writing of the Constitution and anointed Washington first president of the United States. All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, we are almost done with chapter 1, so I'm going to read this last section here. Unveiling the secret fire. Now, once again, the earth is at a crossroads. Once again, the higher arc of the Aquarian age is trying to assist mankind to avoid catastrophes that could dwarf those that occurred when his warnings as the Count Saint Germain were not heeded. As Saint Germain explained, just check something. I have also walked the earth in time of chaos as the wonderman of Europe. I have demonstrated a path and a mastery, yet none could relate to it. For the books were not written, the violet flame dispensation had not come, nor the opportunity to give to the masses of the people, by mass communication, the understanding of the science of decrees. There was no means whereby the rank and file or the royalty themselves could follow a path in my footsteps. All they could have was the stamping upon their memory of my demonstration of alchemical feats. In the last century, Saint Germain went before the Lords of Karma with the proposal to make the knowledge of the violet flame available to all mankind. As collateral for this dispensation, Saint Germain offered his own personal momentum of the seventh ray that he had garnered for thousands of years. The scientific use of the violet flame in this age has been made possible by Saint Germain so that we could experiment with the alchemy of self-transformation through the sacred fire. The knowledge of the violet flame had never been given outside the retreats of the ascended masters. The Lords of Karma agreed, however, to release it to a certain nucleus of devotees. If the experiment proved successful, they would illumine the masses as to its uses. In the early 1930s, therefore, Saint Germain founded the I Am activity and released the dispensation of the violet flame. When mankind en masse failed to respond, the Lords of Karma told Saint Germain they would not give him another allotment of energy for mankind to take and to dissipate and to waste. In Saint Germain's own words, after 70,000 years of sponsoring various endeavors for the enlightenment and the freedom of mankind, my wings were clipped, and I had but to stand and hope that some other hierarch would come forth to implore a dispensation of light for humanity, for souls of light. In 1958, El Morya, on Saint Germain's behalf, founded the Summit Lighthouse for the release and publication of the teachings of the Ascended Masters and the establishment of the community of the Holy Spirit in the Aquarian Age. Saint Germain anointed Mark and Elizabeth Prophet as his messengers and sponsored the keepers of the Flame Fraternity. On September 3rd, 1973, Saint Germain announced, as a result of the swelling of the light bearers and the swelling of the ranks of students of light united in this activity, I have been given again a dispensation from the Lords of Karma. Thus, I may once again step forth and pledge to you the energies of my causal body for the freedom and the victory of the light in this age. Okay, so that completes chapter 1. So we spoke about his lives, a little bit of what he stands for, his connection to America, and now we're just giving a little bit of information as far as kind of how he's responsible for basically releasing the violet flame to all of humanity, since it used to be something that only the Ascended Masters or very highly enlightened people, I guess you could say, had access to. So I look forward to reading chapter 2 with you. And again, depending on how long the chapters are, will depend on how I break these up. And I think each chapter is probably going to be, it's going to vary because the chapter 2 is kind of short. And in chapter 2, we're going to be reading about the violet transmuting flame, a sacred fire. So I hope that you have enjoyed this information. I know a little bit of it might be harder to understand. I know some of the words I'm definitely not familiar with, and some of the things that happened. So, but I still think, again, that it's wonderful to learn more about this extraordinary man and all he's done to bring this forth to us. So, yeah, until next time, when we read chapter 2, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you feel inclined. I would love that and appreciate it. I really enjoy reading these books for myself and for anyone who wants to join me. Learn a little bit, take a little bit of something from everything that we read and everything that we learn together. So until next time, take care, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye.